We're talking about next season for the Georgia Bulldogs. It's never too early. September is right around the corner, Clint.
It is.
Mercedes-Benz is right around the corner. The Clemson Tigers are right around the corner. And your Georgia Bulldogs are going to field a really solid team. We're going to talk about the most important players on that team today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. More on them in a moment. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring today's episode. Daniel is correct. He is Daniel. I am Clint. We are Locked On Bulldogs together. Back again. Guess who's back? Tell a friend. Please tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Over at Dawgs Podcast on Twitter. You can find us over there, as well as LockedOnBulldogs@gmail.com. Get a hold of your boys. Talk to us. You love when you guys reach out and do that sort of thing. So here's what we're talking about today.
Okay.
We are talking incredibly important players for the success of Georgia's team next year. We're losing some folk. There's no way around it.
No.
So really, it's important just to own that, Daniel.
It is.
Okay.
It is. People are talking about, we talked about underrated draft stock on the last episode.
Uh-huh.
We did not mention Ladd McConkey. People upset about this. People have some thoughts about this. We'll let the record show. We think Ladd McConkey is going to be
stud,
potential Hall of Famer. Can I say that now?
Wow.
Is it too early to say that now? I think Ladd McConkey could be an NFL Hall of Famer.
Guys, the March Madness is going to include Bulldogs, and Daniel is just beside himself. He can't help himself.
From your lips to God's ears, Clint. We're going to talk about the most important players. I think you said a very key word there. All right. So we're not going to talk about the best player on Georgia's offense next year or the best player on Georgia's defense next year, but we're going to talk about the most important player. And then third segment listeners, we may give you a little sleeper, a little bonus pick, somebody that maybe you're not thinking of that maybe you should pay a little bit more attention to. But let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Clint, who do you have for most important player for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2024 on the offensive side of the ball?
I don't know how to shield this, to cover it, and
give the people what they want. Give the people what they want.
It's Carson Beck. You don't come back after the season he had, which was a great season. Okay, stellar. A great season. You don't come back from that. And you don't have a loss of talent like we've had not making the college football playoff. And you don't take that step forward. And yes, we're talking about step forward because, again, we didn't make the college football playoff. And that's it. That's the last time we're talking about that, because we're talking about making it. And if we are to make it, it's going to be on the right shoulder of Carson Beck. How he goes is how this team goes. Now, we're going to have dudes in the running back room. Okay. Etienne, welcome on in. Branson, hope you get healthy. Hope you get good. Paul, we got dudes. Okay. Roderick, I'm not doubting that. But we will not make the college football playoff if Carson Beck does not, at minimum, repeat what he did last year. And he's going to have to take a step forward this year. How he goes is how this team goes. And if you think to yourself, Georgia fan, no, don't worry, we're going to have stellar defense, team approach, a balanced attack, yada, say all that you want. You can fool yourself into believing whatever you want. It's Carson Beck needs to be the most vital player on this team.
It is. If it's somebody else on offense, Clint, could I posit an Oscar Delp mention at this point on the show? Now, does Georgia? I think there's some misunderstanding out there. Does Georgia need Oscar Delp to replace Brock Bowers? No, we do not. Is that even a possible thing for a human person to do? No.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. He's a cyborg created in the lab. But Oscar Delp is needed, and dare I say, is the most important person on this team, because we don't know what we're going to get out of Oscar Delp. I would argue we know to a great extent what we're going to get out of Carson Beck. We've seen it, to your point, already last season. Yep. We have seen flashes from Oscar Delp. He has shown us things, but this year he will be the number one option at the position. Now, there are other guys, and I expect those other guys to contribute, Lawson Lucky and the bunch. But Oscar Delp, this offense needs that position to continue to be dominant, and Oscar Delp has got all the talent in the world in order to do just that, create mismatches and allow not only the running game to thrive, but allow all those weapons that Georgia has on the outside. And make no mistake, there are a lot of weapons that Georgia has, that Carson Beck has at his disposal on the outside. Stellar play from the tight end makes all of those positions go as well, Clint. Helps in the blocking game, which helps in the run game, helps in the passing game, not only by catching, but by blocking on the perimeter, blocking downfield. Oscar Delp is an incredibly important piece to this Mike Bobo Georgia offense in 2024.
I see no lie about that, Daniel. I think you're right. And again, people are going to hear that and think, oh, it's because we need him to be Brock Bowers 2.0. No, we don't. That's not how Mike Bobo, that's not how Kirby Smart operates within a system. They find dudes, they get them out there, and then they ride the dudes that are performing. And so it could be a wide receiver, could be running back, could be somebody else. But Oscar Delp being pivotal in this offense just adds that extra layer to it. And he could be 75% Brock Bowers, and he'd still be really important because of what it opens up for everybody else. Because we have, dare I say, I think Etienne's already getting Heisman odds that are on par with Beck, which is crazy to me, but whatever. Like
75% Brock Bowers, by the way, is the best tight end in college football by a mile. So yeah, we'd take that.
We take that any day. You see what I'm saying, people? You see what I'm saying, people?
Yeah.
We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball. And if you are a 1-9, if you've been on this podcast long enough, if you know Daniel and I, you certainly know my answer, what it's going to be.
We know who Clint's answer is going to be.
We're going to ask Daniel.
I might hit you with a zag, but you know who Clint's going to talk about right after this.
This is, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more. Right now over at FanDuel, you put down a bet of $5. Doesn't matter what the bet is. You're going to get 150 bonus bets right back to you. It's fantastic. I don't know if you understand the big game that's coming on that we don't have to shield or talk about a grande bowl, anything like that. It's the Super Bowl.
Muy grande bolo.
Well, the Super Bowl, Daniel, is what we can call it. And that's coming up. And all the props, all the parlays that you can imagine, Daniel and I will be in on them. Trust me. First commercial, coin toss, whatever. I don't care. Go
First
for it.
song in the halftime show.
Sure. Yeah.
Will
there be a wardrobe malfunction? Who's to say? Well, there's a prop out there that's talking about.
There's a prop out there.
FanDuel.com/locked on. Get 150 bonus bets with a $5 bet. Official Locked On Sportsbook and Locked On Dawgs Sportsbook as well. FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more. Daniel, I'm going to give you said you might zag a little bit. I'm not zigging. I'm not zagging. I am running full head of steam in the one direction. I know how. I'm a one-trick pony, and I don't really care.
You got it. Give the people what they want. Tell the people why it's you go first. Tell the people why Malachi Starks is the most important player on this defense.
Oh, Daniel. Then I'm zagging on you.
See? There's just there's a lot of good options out there.
Malachi Starks.
Go ahead.
Starks, let me say this. Malachi Starks is the best player on defense. Okay. The most important player is CJ Allen. Guys, if you don't understand what huge drop-off we had in linebacker play last year that made our defense, as much as it pains me to say, I felt like I was just rowing the boat against the tide of reality and truth. It actually just summarizes my life right there.
Yeah.
Clint, rowing the boat against reality and truth in spite of all evidence to the contrary. Just I don't care.
He's out there paddling.
I was saying this defense was good. We were not good. And we're not up to the standard. We're not up to Georgia way. It's because our linebacker play was bad. It was bad up to what we expect. If we are to reclaim dominance and superiority in the SEC on the defensive side, it's going to start and end with CJ Allen. He's the most pivotal part of this entire defense. If he does well, we call it the eraser. That's the term we've used. If he's an eraser and he just takes pieces off the board for an offense, we're just fine. If he doesn't, we're slogging and we're getting punched in the teeth like we did in the SEC championship game, and it feels awful.
If you were to give me a position group, I would have no problem with saying the inside linebackers are the most important position group on the defense, and perchance we will have that episode at a later date. But
I like that.
If you're going to give me one name, I can't say CJ Allen because I think Raylan Wilson is just as important as CJ Allen. I don't think you can differentiate between the two, and so it's tough for me to single out one of those two guys. I thought you might take the bait with Malachi Starks because he is the most talented player on the defense, and he is the lone returner. I mean, Dalen Everett, obviously, but he is the lone returner from this secondary, and so hugely important season for him.
Okay, Daniel.
The answer is Mykel Williams, and it's Mykel Williams by 50 miles. This is the most important player on this defense. Georgia needs with an inexperienced young secondary.
Yeah.
I don't care how talented these incoming freshmen are. I don't care how talented number one player in the nation, Ellis Robinson, KJ Bolden, most talented safety in the country coming in. I don't care how talented they are. With a young secondary, Georgia needs a pass rush like I need air to breathe and Mike White to remain the coach at Georgia forever. These are the things that we need to have happen.
That was not even on my radar to imagine Mike White not finishing his career at Georgia. And you just put that seed in my head. So thank you.
He's here forever, and we are making this tournament. We need a pass rush, and Mykel Williams is the guy. He comes back. He doesn't, test the transfer portal waters. He comes back another year at Georgia, and he's got something, I think, to prove this year. Tremendous freshman season.
Yeah.
Perhaps a bit of a drop-off in production last year. We kind of saw him disappear at times. We need a dominant pass rush. We've heard rumors, they might have him up, move him around a little bit, get his hand off the ground a little bit, kind of try to utilize that speed and athleticism that he has. Listen, there's a lot of guys that can give this Georgia team pass rush. Okay, he's not the only guy, right? He's not the only guy by a long shot.
But he has the best ceiling out of everybody, Daniel.
He does, because he's an every down player.
Yep.
And he has the tools and physicality and all the traits that give you the sense that he could be a dominant pass rusher in the SEC.
He puts it all together. Now, I was calling for him to have the most sacks in the SEC last year. Mm-hmm. I was
far cry.
Horribly
cry
from that. Yeah. But if he changes positions, they put him back out at that jack, at that edge, at that true go after it, hand off the ground, move you around. If he's doing that, and did we have somebody else that used to play linebacker that can get off the edge and come screaming downfield on somebody, Daniel, to partner with him?
Well, we do. Yeah, no, we do. We we'll pair those fellas up and just get them.
If that's the case, if we do have that true 1-2 threat on the edge in a couple of teams that we have on the schedule, Texas, that wants to throw the ball, just Quinn Ewers wants to throw. Sark wants to take Kirby, the big bad defensive mastermind, down. That's what they want. If we get those two guys cooking on the edge, if Michael Williams is that dude, then yeah, you can go ahead and have Ellis Robinson blow a couple coverages because it doesn't matter because the quarterback's on his backside. That takes care of a lot of blown coverages when you get pressure.
Guys streaking down the field don't matter. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're going to come back for this. We're going to give you sleeper picks for most important players, and this is where I can guarantee you already we're going to get off the rails.
Things are going to get weird. We're going to name names that you haven't even remotely considered as the most important player on Georgia's team coming up right after this.
I feel like paddling into the face of reality and then naming names no one thinks of. These are taglines that are all about us. What about a tagline for Jace Medical? How about you just need it, right? I know we come to sports to escape some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season over a decade. That's scary stuff. Can't imagine being helpless, feeling of a family member, kids getting sick and having no supply whatsoever to keep them on life-saving medication. The Jace Pack is has a different 5 antibiotics to treat long list of bacterial illnesses, UTIs, respiratory infections, and everything. They have 5 of them. The stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com. Complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to prepare than today. Go to chasemedical.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Get $20 off your order today. All right, Daniel, we're going to get off the rails. We're going to name names.
He named names.
He named
names.
You got me blacklisted. Daniel, why don't you start the people off? Tell them who's a name of an under radar player that might end up being vital for this team.
What if I told you the most important player on the entire Georgia roster?
Here we go.
Was never going to touch the football the entire season.
See, this is wildly interesting. I would be intrigued, Daniel. You have me hooked.
His name is Ernest Green.
There it is.
And he might become that guy this year for the Georgia Bulldogs. This is the guy I want you to realize, Georgia fans.
Okay.
This is the guy that caused lock first-round draft pick Amarius Mims to not slide over to left tackle, but instead remain at right tackle, the lesser of the 2 tackle position, the less important for a right-handed quarterback like Carson Beck of the 2 tackle positions. Ernest Green is the guy that kept him exactly where he was. And so if you don't think that this coaching staff sees in him an all SEC first round draft pick himself at left tackle, game-changing offensive lineman, a la Andrew Thomas, a la Jamari Sawyer, if you don't think that this coaching staff sees those traits in him, I think you might need to think harder about the situation, because Ernest Green he is that dude. And so, would I put him as the most important player on this Georgia team right now? No, but I think there's a world in which at the end of the season we look and we say, who was more important than Ernest Green? Just like last year, who was more important than Cedric Van Pran? Not a lot of dudes were more important than him. I think Ernest Green could be that kind of guy.
I really like that. I'm going to stick in that same theme, because if this dude comes out and so if he's a Ernest Green 2.0, Daniel, just on the other side, all of a sudden our offensive line is wicked smart. Okay. If Freeling comes out and balls at right tackle, like he came in and did incredible work, short spurts. I understand, short sample size, but if he's a dude at the right tackle position, by all accounts, if he replicates Ernest Green's last year on the right side, and Ernest Green doubles up his campaign this year. This offensive line all of a sudden becomes formidable against any defense we face. Now I look at the roster of the teams we're playing. I'm not scared of anybody's pass rush at that point if Freeling comes in. I don't care whatsoever. I am concerned with the checks and the calls at center and what happens, who plays that position. If it's Wilson, if it's Michael Moore, okay, we're gonna have to figure that out. That's gonna be interesting.
I'm interested.
We're gonna have probably a large segment of our time this offseason talking about that.
I'm interested.
But if Freeling comes in and balls, so I'm very, very, very interested in him because that shows it up. I'm going to go to another side and I'm going to play the game. I'm going to pose a question to try to get at why I'm choosing this guy to be the most important. Okay. So if I were to give you a magic wand and you could go to any player on the team and for sake of argument, we're going to say to the defensive side of the ball. If I gave you a magic wand, you can go to any player on the team and you could instantly make them the equal of Malachi Starks. So like talent wise, so it doesn't have to be skill set, but talent wise, like a rating, 0 to 100. So Malachi Starks is up there in the upper 90s, which by the way, later on we will do a whole rating of everybody, position group and play.
Yeah.
But if I could say you can match Malachi Starks' rating to anybody else on the defense, you choose who that is.
Okay.
Here's who I would choose to take that magic wand and give it to. Replicate the talent. And I think this guy might be able to not replicate Malachi Starks, but get close, get in the 90s from day one. That is Ellis Robinson. Daniel, if I were to tell you that he lives up to the billing of number one, if he has a Caleb Downs-esque first-year freshman campaign, all of a sudden we go Malachi Starks, Ellis Robinson, KJ Bolden, or whoever at Danjak can do whatever they want to do. But if he has a lockdown, bona fide stud number one recruit, Caleb Downs-esque impact on a defense. Caleb Downs was the best player on their defense last year. I said what I said, Dallas Turner. I said what I said. Okay. If that's the case, all of a sudden this secondary goes from untested to holy geez. We got dudes on two sides of the field that are locked down.
I don't hate
it. So I'm just saying, if he lives up to the billing, all of a sudden he becomes pivotal because then you can start doing all manner of coverages. You can start doing all manner of blitzes. You put him on an island. You trust him. You let the kid cook. And all of a sudden things get interesting in a hurry.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Mostly because, and I'm just going to start letting this out there slowly but surely, and you can call it whatever you want. I don't care.
Well, it's going to be slow, but it is going to be sure.
Dalen Everett is going to be a lot better this year than he was last year. Let's just start getting ahead of this now.
Okay.
You and I did not care for Dalen Everett last year. Not at all. We're not going to hide that. We did not try to hide it from you. We respect you too much as the 199. We did not try to do that.
No.
But just hear me now. Dalen Everett's going to be a lot better in 2024 than he was in 2023. So you talk about Ellis Robinson coming in and establishing some dominance right away. I'm going to go ahead and pencil in 2 legitimate rock solid corners for Georgia now, because we've got a guy that played every snap in the SEC for an entire season last year. And oh, by the way, he's being coached by the best coaching staff in the history of college football.
Yes.
In the history of college football, the best defensive coaching staff, particularly for a member of the secondary. And so, yeah, I'm feeling great about life if Ellis Robinson lives up to the billing. I'm going to give you another one, and it's just short and sweet and simple. Peyton Woodring might be the most important player on Georgia's team next year.
This is wild.
All he did
what did he do?
Was come out, defecate on the bed,
He did.
and then hit every kick that they asked him to hit from that moment on.
Like, he stared into a candle with Kirby looming over him.
It took him one game, and then all of a sudden, that kid was nails for an entire season. It's super important. It cannot be overstated how important it is to have a solid kicking game, to have a guy that is reliable, that's dependable. I think he's going to extend his range this year a little bit. We're going to see that number creep back into the 50s, that you're going to see him attempt. Kirby didn't even look at field goals. I didn't feel like last year that we're over 47, 48 yards. Peyton Woodring was incredibly accurate last year. I think he got that confidence that kickers need, and I think you're going to see him continue that into 2024. And it's not flashy, it's not sexy, there's nothing about it, but it's vitally important for a football team. And so don't sleep on a guy like Peyton Woodring making the difference in. You think Georgia's going to have any close games in the regular season, Clint? You think there's going to be any close one score down to the wire games? You think you're going to need a bucket and some Tums to go through this Georgia football season? Because you're going to need it, Georgia fans. You best just get ready for it now. You're going to want Peyton Woodring in those games, because Georgia's going to need a late field goal to win one of them, right? Like in Tuscaloosa.
I was just going to say, when you said the instant that came to mind, if you all think that all of a sudden Georgia, with the excess has happened to Alabama, if you think we're going to come in there and waltz all over, and it's like, you have another thing coming. That game is going to be a 10 bucket rating.
Also, over Alabama's in shambles, and the program has completely fallen to pieces, and the dynasty is over. And the loudest members of their fan base are really eating their feelings on Twitter right now. So if you haven't had a chance to get over there, you might want to. They are really struggling.
You remember that time that Coach left a school with the best offensive line, and everybody's going to follow him, including a bona fide quarterback and award-winning tackles and centers and guards, and then they went to another SEC school, and the quarterback backed out of coming to Alabama.
Yeah. Don't worry though; they still got Jalen Milroe, so they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine.
I cannot wait.
I can't wait. It's going to be real fun.
This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see you all next time. He is Daniel. I'm Clint. We'll see you guys then.
See ya.